Hello, you're watching Race to Power. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. Tonight, we talk about the Jimmy Kimmel versus Melania Trump controversy ahead of the midterm elections. This tussle has once again led to the larger debate around free speech and that segment which is anti-Trump in America. Whose side will prevail? We decode this tonight. And here in India, West Bengal is a few hours away from the second phase of polling. Who are the big names contesting this time around and what's at stake? We get you more about it. But first, let's talk about what has been happening in the United States of America. A shootout at a high-profile gathering in the U.S. Capitol and a dark joke by one of America's leading comedians has once again sparked a debate on free speech in the United States right ahead of the midterm elections. President Donald Trump is calling for the ABC channel to fire the late-night host Jimmy Kimmel over a joke about First Lady Melania. The joke, which was made a couple of days before the shooting incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington, referred to Melania Trump as an expectant widow. In fact, in a recorded monologue, Kimmel had portrayed himself as the MC of this dinner. It included a segment in which he addressed the First Lady in the audience and said, quote, "Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow." Now, reacting to this video, Trump has said Kimmel should be immediately fired by ABC and the parent company, Walt Disney. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump said, and I quote him, "I appreciate that so many people are incensed by Jimmy Kimmel's despicable call to violence and normally would not be responsive to anything that he said, but this is something far beyond the pale." Earlier, hitting out at Jimmy Kimmel, Melania Trump had said that his monologue about her family wasn't comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens the political sickness within America, as she called on ABC to take a stand. The late-night host, however, has claimed that his joke has been misconstrued and was not a call to assassination. He said that he had referred to the difference in ages of the First Lady and her husband.
It was a pretend roast. I said, our First Lady Melania is here. Look at her, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow, which obviously was a joke about their age difference and the look of joy we see on her face every time they're together. It was a very light roast joke about the fact that he's almost 80 and she's younger than I am. It was not by any stretch of the definition a call to assassination, and they know that.
Kimmel said that he agreed with Melania Trump's call on dialing back the rhetoric, but pointed out that she should talk to her husband about it first.
But I understand that the First Lady had a stressful experience over the weekend, and probably every weekend is pretty stressful in that house. And also, I agree that hateful and violent rhetoric is something we should reject. I do, and I think a great place to start to dial that back would be to have a conversation with your husband about it.
Remember, critics of Donald Trump have said that he has pushed all the barriers of presidential language during his tenure this time. Just last month, Trump had said that he was glad that Robert Mueller, the former FBI chief who led the Russiagate probe, was dead. The media are a favorite target of Donald Trump as well. He's often berated female journalists, in fact, even calling one as piggy. The president had threatened to bomb Iran, saying that a whole civilization will die tonight, while also using the F word in many of his Truth Social posts. So Trump's latest criticism has set up a major free speech stress test. Jimmy Kimmel has been seen at the No Kings protest as well, that are being organized across America against the current administration, particularly, of course, Donald Trump. But this controversy has once again shifted the focus on free speech and the ongoing conflict between pro-Trump and anti-Trump Americans. As America moves towards its November midterm elections, the question is, who would prevail? All right, let me welcome my guests on the show tonight. Eugene Craig III, former Vice Chair, Maryland Republican Party, Chair, Black Republicans for Harris, is joining us live on the broadcast from Washington, D.C. Eugene, welcome to WION. I don't want to get into this debate of what's a right joke and what's a wrong joke, but I want to understand from you that this is not the first time that Jimmy Kimmel has made jokes about Donald Trump or the administration. In fact, not just him, there are several other comedians who have made such remarks and jokes against the administration, whether it's Seth Meyers or Stephen Colbert. They all lean towards one particular ideology. But does this humor translate into influencing voters at all?
I don't really think it translates to influencing voters. What's going to influence voters is that Americans are paying $4 and $4 plus for a gallon of regular gas. What's going to influence voters is that inflation is through the roof right now. What's going to influence voters is this needless war in Iran. At this point in time, it's baked into the calculus that the president's going to say something crazy on Truth Social, and that the comedians are going to say something crazy about the president. But I don't think that's going to have either of those things have any effect on voters and how they vote come in the midterm election in November.
Sure, this can be a trivial issue, and there are, of course, much bigger issues at play when it comes to voter concerns. And so the question is, why does Donald Trump then give them the legitimacy by, responding to them time and again and calling for them to be fired from channels, considering the fact that these shows have also decreased in popularity over a period of time within America?
Trump can't help himself. He's the same Trump that he's been for the last 20 years when it comes to the political space. And what it comes down to it is that the United States Constitution, the freedom of the press, the freedom of speech is literally written into the document, right? And the only real protection that comes there is from government, which actually would kind of mean that, like, when Donald Trump asks for people to be fired for speech that he doesn't like, would actually be somewhat of a government overreach and a violation of our Constitution. But the thing is this also, the free speech warriors can't all of a sudden then decide they don't like free speech because of speech that they don't like. If you're going to be a free speech warrior, you have to absolutely be a free speech warrior.
Which is what I was coming to. This entire free speech debate also has divided Americans between those who are pro-Trump and, support one kind of speech, and those who are anti-Trump, who criticize Trump for the kind of words that he uses, and of course his MAGA supporters. And therefore, what do you think it's, reflecting of, or who do you think would prevail, at least in the midterms? Because obviously, this is a larger debate, if not one particular specific issue.
I think, the anti-Trump, I think the anti-Trump, the Democrats are going to more than likely prevail in the midterm elections, just based off some of the things that are happening with redistricting and that things that happen on the economic side here in America. People are really, really hurting right now. Single moms that, rely upon, $30 to fill their tank are now spending $60, $70 to fill their tank of gas to just get through the everyday errands. And that's real tangible effects on people's lives, other than, not necessarily, jokes that people are going to forget about, 3 days from now.
All right, Eugene, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on WION.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, with that, let's also tell you how United States has been witnessing a spike in political violence. We've all seen that with targeted anti-government attacks, specifically under the lens now. The shooting incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner has reignited the debate on heated political rhetoric in the United States. In fact, Democrats and Republicans are both blaming each other. But the data shows a spike in the violent incidents by people belonging to both sides of the political aisle. As per a report that has been published in the Wall Street Journal, anti-government violence has hit a 30-year high. For the first time in 20 years, violent attacks by extreme left has surpassed the number of violent attacks carried out by the extreme right. A total of 20 incidents of political violence were recorded in the year 2025. That's last year. And out of these, 10 attacks originated from the extreme left, while 8 as coming from the extreme right. 2 remain unlinked to any political ideology. Data shows a dangerous trend of growing political divide within America. And this does not mean that violent attacks from radical right have gone down. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the United States has seen overall surge in the incidence of political violence. 3 people were killed last year in attacks characterized as extreme right, while 1 died after an attack classified as extreme left. The choice of weapons during these attacks is also getting deadlier. Most of the anti-government attacks last year were carried out using Molotov cocktails, which is a DIY weapon used to cause fire upon impact. 4 attacks were carried out using explosives and 4 using firearms. Political differences are being dealt with violence now. The top leadership of the Republican as well as the Democrat side continue to condemn incidents of political violence, but the question remains, are political rivals turning into bitter enemies in the United States? And staying with updates from United States, the country is now heading for a high-stakes midterm election this November. Democrats are looking to flip the balance of power in both chambers of the U.S. Congress, and the Republicans are clearly making efforts to expand or at least retain their lead. To achieve their aim, both sides are now engaging in a redistricting battle in their strongholds. Redistricting essentially aims to change the political map of the state in a way that gives additional seats to the dominant party. 5 Republican states and 2 Democrat states have set the ball rolling on redistricting before this year's midterm elections. Democrats are looking to change congressional map of California and Illinois, while the Republicans want to change the congressional maps in Texas, Indiana, Ohio, Missouri, and Florida. The Texas House passed a new map that could give the Republicans 5 new congressional seats. This, remember, comes after voters in Virginia approved a referendum for a new congressional map earlier this month. This whole battle of partisan map making started with President Donald Trump's push to draw new congressional lines in Texas. As things stand, Republicans hold a thin majority in both chambers of the U.S. Congress with 53 seats in the 100-member Senate. Democrats have 45 seats, with independents occupying 2. Republican majority gets thinner in the House of Representatives. Here they have 217 seats, as you can see, just 5 seats more than Democrats, who have 212 in the 435-member House. In the past, Donald Trump has repeatedly said that a loss in midterms would pave the way for his impeachment. Donald Trump's approval ratings have consistently gone down in the recent months, and this has sparked concerns among Republican ranks about the outcome of the midterm elections. If Republicans lose majority, Trump will have to make concessions in the Congress to get his programs approved. Let me go across to our correspondent Susan Tehrani, who's joining us live on the broadcast from New York. Susan, some very interesting times right now in the United States of America as both the Republicans and the Democrats look to redistricting their strongholds. But what is the latest as far as this entire move is concerned? You know, Virginia was something that came as a setback for the Republicans. Now, what are they looking at?
Yeah, Virginia was initially a setback for the Republicans. However, that's not confirmed as of yet because the Virginia outcome is stuck in a bitter legal battle. Basically, it's going to go all the way to the Virginia Supreme Court to determine whether or not that would be approved. But as you mentioned, Texas is already locked in for the Republicans. But all of this redistricting, which, by the way, usually happens after the census every 10 years, and very rarely happens during a midterm election, was started by President Trump and the state of Texas because they believed that those districts didn't represent the people that were voting. But now the Democrats are pushing back, and they're pushing back hard. They're going to continue to push for states like California and Illinois, possibly getting a lot more seats than the Republicans. So even President Trump's staunchest critics are saying, if you started this fight, then Republicans have to go all the way. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen is possibly we're going to see these wars happening in all 50 states. And it's not clear whether or not it's really meant to be like this. Like I mentioned, the census is every 10 years. It's always been like that. So this is very unusual.
All right, Susan, thanks very much for joining us with the latest. Let's wait and see how this moves forward for both sides. From US, let's shift our focus to the UK, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer is fighting one of the biggest scandals of his leadership. UK lawmakers are now gearing up to make a final decision on whether Prime Minister Starmer should face a parliamentary investigation for appointing Peter Mandelson as the US ambassador. Mandelson's link with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein has taken the British politics by storm, and it could potentially threaten Keir Starmer's position as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. But for now, Starmer is facing a crucial vote in the House of Commons, where lawmakers will vote on a motion to launch a parliamentary probe on the vetting process of Peter Mandelson. The vote is unlikely to pass, as it would require large-scale defection by Labour lawmakers. Cabinet ministers have rallied behind Keir Starmer, who continues to claim his innocence in this matter. Starmer says that full due process was followed in Peter Mandelson's appointment, but the latest revelations suggest that Mandelson was made the UK ambassador to America despite failing security checks. Starmer's former chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney, came to his defence.
That judgment was a mistake. What it did not do was oversee national security vetting, ask officials to ignore procedures, request that steps should be skipped, or communicate explicitly or implicitly that checks should be cleared at all costs.
Critics accuse Starmer of knowing that Mandelson had maintained links to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Prime Minister who appointed Peter Mandelson as ambassador to the United States, even though his links to Jeffrey Epstein had been widely reported, even though those reports had been brought directly to the Prime Minister's attention, even though the Cabinet Secretary had advised him that security clearance should be acquired before the choice was confirmed. A Prime Minister who, despite all that, still told the House repeatedly that full due process was followed.
But Starmer says that he was not aware of Mandelson's link to Epstein or the fact about him failing security checks before the appointment. The UK leader sacked Mandelson in September last year after new details emerged about the depth of his ties to Epstein, who had died in prison in 2019 while facing sex trafficking charges. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appeared for a hearing in his corruption trial. Netanyahu stood before the court after more than 2 months of a pause due to Israel's war against Iran. This was Netanyahu's 81st appearance before the court since the trial began in 2020. He had been scheduled to appear on Monday, but he requested the session be cancelled hours before the trial, citing security reasons. Under this case, Prime Minister Netanyahu faces allegations of bribing businessman Shaul Elowich, the former owner of the Walla News website, for favourable media coverage. Other accusations point to receiving gifts. Netanyahu and his family are accused of also making various demands requesting the suppression of political rivals. The Israeli leader has already submitted a pardon request before the country's president, but Israeli law does not allow a presidential pardon without an admission of guilt. Since the start of his trial in 2020, Netanyahu has denied all charges against him, describing them as politically motivated campaign aimed at removing him from office. Netanyahu's corruption trial reportedly is in the final stage. Israel is heading for national elections later this year. And if this trial does not conclude or the verdict goes Netanyahu's way, he will be free to run for the elections. But if this trial concludes with Netanyahu's conviction, his long-standing rule as Israeli Prime Minister will end. West Bengal is all set for the second and the final round of voting tomorrow, with voters across 142 constituencies and 7 districts heading to polls. Leaders from all major political parties have held their rallies across the state. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee both campaigned for their party candidates on the final day. Union Home Minister Amit Shah participated in the last leg of the campaign as well in Kolkata's Behala area, and said that Central Armed Police Forces will stay put in the state for 60 days. The first phase of the high-stakes election saw a record-breaking turnout of over 90%, with final votes to be counted on the 4th of May. The key districts going to vote in the second phase include the capital Kolkata, Hooghly, Howrah, Purba Bardhaman, Nadia, and North and South 24 Parganas. These districts comprise both urban and rural settlements. Remember, Kolkata and the surrounding suburban areas are seen as a stronghold of the ruling Trinamool Congress. And Mamata Banerjee's comeback to power depends on how many of these seats her party can actually retain this time around. In the 2021 Assembly elections, TMC had secured 123 out of 142 seats going to polls in this phase. But in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, the Bharatiya Janata Party had increased their vote share in these districts and led in 21 assembly segments, while TMC was ahead in 90 seats. Talking about security arrangements, tight security arrangements have been put in place across all polling booths, with the authorities remaining on a high alert to ensure free and fair polling. And our correspondent Dharamjot Kaur sends us this report from Kolkata. Take a look.
Here, standing in Kolkata in a boat at the Hooghly River, this is a key point of transport from one side to the other using these state-provided boats. Now, beyond the everyday commute, beyond the tourism of this place and the peaceful waters, it is the political undercurrent that is very strong ahead of the second phase of elections in West Bengal. And one of the key issues in an urban city like Calcutta is that of jobs, of employment and of investment. These are various issues that not just the elderly are facing, but the youth in particular is concerned about, which is leading to a lot of youngsters moving out of the city, out of the state to other areas of India for better opportunities. Can either the incumbent TMC or the opposition BJP, which is eyeing power in the state, address these top issues? That is the big question. And which party really ends up wooing the voters in the urban populace of West Bengal? Here in Kolkata with video journalist Joy, this is Dharamjot Kaur for WION World is One.
Well, shifting our focus now, Ali Al-Zaidi has been nominated as Iraq's new Prime Minister designate. Iraq's newly elected President Nizar Ahmadi has asked Al-Zaidi to form the new government, marking a dramatic political shift after weeks of deadlock. Earlier, remember, the powerful Shia alliance known as the Coordination Framework named Al-Zaidi as its nominee for the post of Prime Minister. He now has 30 days to form a government, which is a difficult task in Iraq's complex and often delayed political system.
In accordance with the Iraqi constitution, I charge you, as the nominee of the largest parliamentary blocs, with forming the government. You have 1 month to form this government and present it to the parliament, and be assured that all of us, along with the various political forces, will support your efforts and those of the incoming government, and all authorities will cooperate and stand together for the development of this country. I congratulate you for this mandate, and you are worthy of it and will abide by the constitutional time frame for completing the formation of the government. I wish you success.
The decision comes after Iraqi leaders backed away from supporting former Premier Nouri al-Maliki following the pressure from US and warnings from President Trump. Al-Maliki is seen as close to Iran. A little known in political circles, Ali Al-Zaidi is a 40-year-old multi-millionaire businessman, banker and media owner. He built his career in private banking and investment, and he owns a regional television network as well. He's been involved with the supply of Iraq's vast government food basket program that serves millions of people. He's never held public office, making him an outsider in Iraq's political establishment. If successful, he would become the youngest prime minister in the country's modern history. Since the US-led invasion that toppled Saddam Hussein back in 2003, Iraq has balanced influence between Washington and Tehran, which is a challenge that continues till date. The new prime minister will face mounting pressure to rein in armed groups aligned with Tehran, many of which Washington considers as terrorist organizations. Iraq was dragged into the current conflict with strikes targeting both American interests and Tehran-backed groups in the country. The new Prime Minister will also need to rebuild ties with Gulf countries and address the economic challenges worsened by disruptions in oil exports through the Hormuz. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. As always, we will keep getting you updates from around the world. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
Get the latest update.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
Vielleicht nur als dem Ausland.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Shiban John. Now, this is fine print. We have a packed show lined up for you. Let's start with the headlines first. US President Donald Trump says that Iran is in a state of collapse, even as he claimed that Tehran has requested the White House to open the Strait of Hormuz. The UAE says that it will exit the oil cartel OPEC and its wider OPEC Plus grouping effective May 1st, a move long anticipated as the country grew increasingly frustrated with production limits and its strained ties with Saudi Arabia. Thick smoke and heavy fire grips Tuapse oil refinery in southern Russia after it was hit by a Ukrainian drone strike. The oil terminal on Russia's southern Black Sea coast has been hit thrice in less than 2 weeks. Pakistan's President Asif Ali Zardari on a week-long visit to China. Trade ties and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor framework, they are under the spotlight during this tour. Greek police arrested an 89-year-old man after 2 shootings wounded 4 people in Athens, reportedly sparked by problems with pension payments. German rescuers haul and coax a humpback whale into a specially adapted boat which should carry it to deeper waters, completing a key stage in a last-ditch rescue effort. Sri Lanka cricket has plunged into fresh uncertainty. The country's cricket board steps down amid government pressure to make way for a new administration. And this comes on the backdrop of allegations of corruption and mismanagement. Russia-Ukraine war entered a very dangerous territory. In a dramatic escalation, both sides are striking each other. The war is well into its 5th year. It started in 2022. While Russia pummeled Kiev in a rare daytime attack, Ukrainian drones caused massive fire at Tuapse oil refinery, and this is for the 3rd time in a week. Here's a full report to get you all the details. Take a look.
Russian airstrikes are getting deadlier and bigger, striking deeper inside Ukraine. A deadly combination of missiles, drones and glide bombs are causing death and destruction. Explosions echo over Kiev. Ukrainian officials urge residents to take shelter as Russia pummels the capital city during a rare daytime attack. Russia is experimenting with different drone and missile tactics to penetrate air defenses and identify vulnerabilities. The Russian forces have carried out 76 airstrikes in the past 24 hours. Moscow has launched 247 guided aerial bombs, 6,251 kamikaze drones and conducted 2,283 artillery strikes from multiple launch rocket systems. As many as 226 frontline clashes have been reported in Dnipro, Pokrovsk and Zaporizhzhia regions in a day. Ukraine is not holding back. It is striking Russia's energy sites with its long-range drones. Ukrainian drones have caused massive